more seconds here. Look at what a wonderful crowd. Thank you, everybody. For those of you that stayed, thank you. And for those of you that are just joining us today, also thank you. We're happy to see you. We'll start here at the strike of 8. Christine, are you ready? Bob, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, 8 o'clock. Good morning and welcome to the 4th Annual Wyoming Funding Summit. We are so excited to have you here today. So let us begin, if everybody would stand, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We also have a welcoming message this morning from U.S. Senator John Barrasso and Cynthia Lummis, who could not be here today, but they did take the time to send us a video. So, Christine, can you cue that up?
Hi, I'm Senator John Barrasso, joined by my outstanding colleague, Senator Cynthia Lummis, and on behalf of both of us, welcome to the Wyoming Federal Funding Summit.
So this summit continues to be an invaluable resource for the free training, for communities to get guidance, nonprofits, and businesses throughout Wyoming.
Well, you're right. You talk about Wyoming communities, and they deserve fair and full access to the federal programs because their tax dollars pay for it. That's exactly what this summit is designed to help all of you achieve.
Well, you know, they couldn't afford, some of the small communities couldn't afford a grant writer, and it's a talent. And so to have this take place so communities can learn how to write their own grants is the most awesome thing. So we encourage you to make the most out of the breakout sessions on federal grant writing and management, and take the opportunity to visit with federal agency representatives. So whatever your role, there's something here to help you move Wyoming forward.
And you know, something of this level comes through with strong collaboration. So we're truly grateful to all the partners who've helped make this possible today.
Yeah, I think this is our 4th year. And Kathy Lenz, who did a great job of, thinking this was a good idea and going forward with it. Do you know they're meeting for 4 days this time?
I saw that.
It's just a one-day thing. We want to thank Governor Gordon and his grant management office. Your leadership over the past 2 years really has elevated this event. So 4 days worth of intense knowledge, working with federal agencies, it really makes Wyoming put its best foot forward. So I shared it. It was Sheridan 4 years ago, and none of us could have imagined how far this would come. So it really is a testament to the incredible people across Wyoming who believed in this mission.
And we know that when you're going to leave equipped with practical knowledge and connections to put it to work. That they're generous sponsors. This has been free for 4 years because we have sponsors.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful? Yeah. I wish we could go. It's on a work week for us. Darn it. We're not going to get to go. Someday I'll get to go because I won't be here next year. And I'll tell you all about it.
I am going to miss you. You know, you talk about somebody who is passionate, principled, patriotic. Cynthia Lummis, I'm going to miss you.
Oh, thanks. And John, I'll miss you too, but what I can do is I can call in reports because maybe I'll get to attend this next year for the first time. It always happens when we're in session. Yeah, but we want to thank you all so much. Thank the sponsors. We want to thank those of you who are attending. Thank you to the federal agencies who send people to help make this a really, really productive event. So enjoy your day in Wyoming, enjoy your week in Wyoming, and thanks for attending the event.
Thank you.
Well, that deserves a round of applause. They never disappoint. So we at the Grants Management Office and our partners are also excited to have you with us. I'd like to take a moment, though, to recognize several key people that have made this event and made the Grants Management Office and all the things that you do possible. So first of all, our summit hosts. Please help me in thanking Senators John Barrasso, Cynthia Lummis, along with our very own Governor Gordon. The vision and execution of the Grants Management Office couldn't have happened without some key people in the State Budget Department and the Grants Management Office, our director, Kevin Hibbert. Our grants administrator, and you all know her, Christine Emiger. And rounding out our small but mighty team is Deputy Administrator Diana Cabriales. And all of this couldn't be possible without the help and the dedication of our consultants, Haggerty Consulting and Clifton Larson Allen. Please raise your hands. I would also like to recognize some key people in the audience. I know that, lost my place for just a minute. Senator Lummis's Economic Development Director, Kathy Lentz, we could not have done this without all of your hard work and dedication over the past 4 years. So Kathy, please stand. And also EPA Federal Partner Direct Coordinator, we call her our federal quarterback, Carolyn Bryan. Is Carolyn in the room yet? There she is in the back, everybody. She's so shy. She's wonderful. And while we're on federal agencies, we also couldn't make this happen without our federal partners. And we will be talking about that a lot today, because today is the day that they joined us. So if you're one of our federal partners, would you please just raise your hand and thank you for being here. All right, just a couple more recognition. Kathy, are there any other representatives from Senator Lummis's office here today?
They're not here yet.
Okay, and Senator Barrasso's office, anybody? Did I overlook?
I don't think they were able to come.
Okay, and I do know I did see Congresswoman Hageman State Director Trinity Lewis walk through the door. Hi, Trinity. Thank you for joining us. Do we have any state legislators or other elected officials in the audience? I know they'll be in and out today. Thank you for being here. Finally, I just want to thank our sponsors. The Wyoming Department of Transportation did a yeoman's job in helping us get all the materials printed for the summit and also all the materials for the training the last 2 days. So we just want to thank them not only for their sponsorship, but for getting all of our materials out to the public. So thank you, YDOT. I'll go ahead and go through the rest of this list and we can give them a round of applause at the end. Also sponsoring this event are the Department of Workforce Services, the Wyoming County Commission Association, the Wyoming Association of Municipalities, the Wyoming Association of Conservation Districts, Visit Gillette, and Right Wyoming. They've been wonderful, and the Camplex, for those of you out there that work at the Camplex, you've been terrific to work with. Thank you. Gillette College, Wyoming Business Alliance, and the Wyoming Innovative Partnership, and of course, Haggerty Consulting and Clifton Larson Allen. So let's give them a round of applause. Okay, now we're going to get into the meat of things about why we're here. And before we move on to the man of the hour, let's talk a little bit about the Grants Management Office and what we do, who we serve, and why we do it. But first, I want to engage the audience even more. So how many of you are attending this summit for the first time? Please raise your hands. Oh my goodness, so many of you. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. How many of you joined us for the grant training the past 2 days? Wow, that's wonderful. And did you get a lot out of it? And did you meet new people and network? Fantastic. And how many of you have actually except for this week, how many of you have interacted with the Grants Management Office over the past 2 years? Show of hands. Okay, we're getting there, little by little. Well, thank you, everybody. So as a way of a little bit of history, in July of 2024, Governor Gordon formally launched the Grants Management Initiative. The Grants Management Office is housed in the State Budget Department, and it is a one-of-a-kind, first-of-a-kind office in the nation. GMO is designed for Wyoming's success. It was custom built for you. There is nothing else like it anywhere, and you all helped mold it into something that's useful for you. And we're not done yet, and we are going to continue to run through the tape, Governor. You'll understand more about that later. As many of you have heard in the past few days, Wyoming has historically ranked very low in receiving federal funds back to our state. However, in order to take advantage of funding opportunities, we needed to ramp up capacity and resources and provide additional services for people that didn't have the capacity to do that. That was clear in our mandate. Hence, bringing in Hagerty and CLA. The overarching goal of the Grants Management Initiative is to create a one-stop shop for resources related to federal and state grant opportunities, and to help you work through that to identify stacking and braiding options, including if there were areas where you could take advantage of IRA tax credit programs, along with other direct pay options. These resources were meant to be directed to state and local governments, tribal governments and organizations, and we do a lot of work with our tribal partners, nonprofits, and small businesses. Through GMO, we created 3 things. We did a lot of things, but categorizing them into 3 things. And these were tools to assist you in the state. 1, we created WYGAP, the Wyoming Grant Assistance Program. What does that do? The Grant Assistance Program is a team of us that are there to help you. So if you've got a project or you're looking for funding for your project, you submit a technical assistance request to our team. We then go and we research grants.gov and all of our state agency funding, and we produce what's called an opportunity scan for you. Those are funding opportunities that are available today. It's a snapshot in time that may be applicable and useful for you. But we didn't stop there. We went on to provide services to help you write the grant, review your grant. We actually help you with your grant through the whole life cycle of monitoring, reporting, and auditing. We have provided extensive training and will continue to provide regional training. We have hosted webinars. We have created tools and templates that can all be found on our website. And the one thing that we will not do, we will not tell you what to apply for. That's on you. You get to decide what strings you want. But once you apply, once you decide, we can help you through the entire process. And the best thing about it, it's free of charge. So why wouldn't you contact us and see how we can help you? Please do that if you got nothing out of this. For those of you that are new, know that we are here to help you. The second thing that we did is we created the Grants Connect Hub, which is on our website, and it's sifted through all of grants.gov, and all we have on there are funding opportunities that pertain to Wyoming. We don't care about salmon fishing in Alaska, although we kind of do, but these are just us. And I think when I looked this week, we have 501 federal funding opportunities that we have posted on our website. So if you have an opportunity, do please take a look at that. And the last thing we did is we realized at the very beginning that we had a hole somewhere and that we needed to do a better job of working with our federal partners. I remember when I first started, when the governor contracted me in 2021, my call from Randall, governor, and to have virtual coffee. And we started back then, and what was very clear is that Wyoming really wasn't in the game. We knew what we needed, but we didn't know how to go after it. Once we went after it, we didn't know how to fill the necessary forms out and to do the work. So we really had to turn that around. One of the things we didn't know who our federal partners were. We had no names, no faces, no contact information for those federal agencies that we're supposed to be doing business with in Wyoming. So we changed that. And we found points of contact for all of the federal agencies that we do business with. We work with our federal partners very closely. One of the things that I'm also proud about is when they were putting all of the stimulus funds out for Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act, they forget about small states and small communities like Wyoming. We have really frontier communities, so we wouldn't be eligible for things. What we did is we worked with our federal partners to say, hey, you got to change your eligibility criteria so we can play in that space. And we were able to do that. Our federal partners came to the table and they really started understanding Wyoming and what our needs were. And now we have meetings every other Thursday from 11 to 11:30. It's a speed round and it's with our federal partners, and we get heads up on notices that are going to be dropping. Why is that so important? Because some of those grant opportunities are 10 days to respond, 30 days to respond. So as much notice as you can get is really important. So if you're not on the distribution list and you'd like to join us, I would encourage you to stop over at the desk and they will put you on the distribution list. It's fun and they can help answer questions. So since we began 2 years ago in July, so we're a biennium old, we have had about 760 technical assistance requests from all of you. That's pretty impressive. And 1/3 of those requests came from small businesses. I don't know why I was surprised to see that. I thought local governments would be higher, but small businesses. 22% was from nonprofits, and we had 100 nonprofit organizations registered for this event this week. So for all of you nonprofit people out there, thank you, and thank you for attending the Grant Summit or the training as well. And 20% were for local governments with infrastructure needs, and I know the governor's going to talk a little bit more about that too. So in 2 short years, we have been able to claim a conservative yet impressive return on investment of 24-to-1 for pre-award dollars and 200-to-1 for post-award. So that is, I think, one of the reasons that we set the stage and the Grants Management Office, with the help of the governor and the support of the state agencies and certainly Director Hibbard, we have been funded, fully funded for the biennium. So we're going to be around. I could go on and on, but we really came here for our keynote speaker and the chief executive of our state, Christine. We're going to show a short clip that the governor has provided. So Christine, would you show that clip now, please? And then we'll ask you up stage, Governor.
For the past several months, we've been talking about the essentials, the practical things that keep Wyoming strong: responsible budgeting, saving for the future, supporting our families, legacy industries, and workforce, investing in our communities. The things that matter, because authentic Wyoming works best when we focus on what's essential, not what's loud. The essentials for Wyoming have never been numbers on a spreadsheet. They're neighbors helping neighbors when times are hard. They're local control, decisions made by the people who live with them. They're honoring the grit and character that built this state and protecting the opportunity that will carry it forward. Right now, Wyoming sits at a crossroads. The decisions we make today will shape our economy, our communities, and our children's future for decades. Wyoming doesn't need imported outrage or anger. We need real Wyoming, steady, independent, conservative, grounded in our values, originating from our people over generations, focused on our future, ignoring the noise. Real Wyoming is small towns with a big future built to lead. That's who we are. And if we keep our eyes on the essentials, Wyoming won't just weather this moment, we'll lead through it. The essentials, built to lead.
So ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to welcome the Honorable Governor Mark Gordon.
Hey, my speech away, so you're gonna have to go from my hip. So I apologize for that. But it is wonderful to see you here, 4 years. I want to start by saying, you know, only in Wyoming, and I hear this over and over and over again, this isn't just slot, this is true. Only in Wyoming can you have the senators and the congresswomen come together and say, what are the things we need for Wyoming, and actually make it happen like this. It's so fun to have Cynthia Lummis and John Barrasso. I'll tell you, back in 2008, when I thought, you know, our state really needed to have somebody in Congress who could sort of make sense out of the deadlock that was happening there. Cynthia and I ran against each other. We have become very good friends, and you've got some of her humor. I remember at one point she said, Mark, why don't we in this debate, I'll take care of your speech and you can take care of mine. What do you say? And that's the sort of you know, friendship that we can have, and it really pays off. So when I look at their leadership and what they've been able to accomplish, and what Congresswoman Harriet Hageman has been able to do, I really feel blessed to be in Wyoming. A lot of people say things like, "This is a really small state. You know, your population's tiny. What can you get done?" Well, I think what you're here for is the kind of thing that Wyoming can get done. Drew's leadership, Christine's leadership, Kevin's leadership, really all of the agencies and others that have come together have really made an imprint. Overwhelmingly, I have heard every year how valuable this has been. I could go on and on about that, but thank you for raising your hands. Thank you for shaking your heads yes when we talk about value here. And for our federal partners, you know, this has been a dream of mine really since well before I became governor. When I was working as treasurer, it was always interesting to me that these mineral royalty grants, maybe some of you have heard about, these are the things that we can set aside, the legislature can set aside, and can really help with those projects. And you know, you think about the water tank in Opal that collapsed. Same things sort of happening now, I think, in Wright. You know, the clay pipe that's been in Thermopolis and in Glen Rock, the fact that that's deteriorated. How about that water line in Rollins that's almost from the last, 2 centuries ago? You can see how important it is to be here. And when we would sit down as a state loan and investment board, we would kind of weigh through what the legislature was willing to give us as MRG grants, and a little bit about that. And we try to do our best for communities. And I came from KC, 286 people, couldn't have done some of the things without MRG. And so it's a really important program, but then I would always have the federal partners show up and say, you know, we've got $16 million that we've got to deploy somewhere in Wyoming, or it's going to go somewhere else in the country, year after year after year. So finally, you know, putting this together and being helpful to communities, it's such a reward to see how, and I hope the federal partners feel that too, the partnership that we can come together with and the assistance, because that was one of the things, Drew, and you mentioned it, one of the big challenges, what are the technical aspects that we have to adhere to? And you have poor old Tom at Tom's Tire Service that's sitting there saying, I got to run a business and I'm supposed to fill out all this paperwork and everything else. How about the engineering requirements that are there? What are the things that we can do as a state, because we're small, to really assist communities so they can get things done? So it's really rewarding, and I just want to please give a hand to all the people, the leadership from Drew and Kevin and others, all the people that have had a hand in making this a success. Please give them a hand. So I also want to give all of you a hand, and it really comes from growing up on a ranch. I was thinking about what to say this morning, and thank God I was doing that, because Drew just took my speech away. But you know, how many of you are familiar with brandings? Yeah, pretty much everybody in the room. So you can see if this makes sense. Everybody's been to a branding. There's usually a cast of characters that is there. And I'm not going to talk, my wife and I have arguments about whether it's better to rope or use a table. I'm just going to leave that because she's wrong, I'm right. But anyway, she'll tell you who wins, so you can get that too. But in any event, there's always that group that shows up, and I'm looking at Trinity because I know she knows this. There's this group that shows up that all they want to do is rope. They bring the horse trailer and they come out and they're going to rope, but as soon as it's somebody else's turn to rope, by golly, I've got to go irrigate or something. I'm not here to help you. So there's that group. Then there are the people that know how to do brandings because they've done it never, but they know how to do it. And they're going to tell you all the things that you need to do. And then there's usually a whole bunch of people that jump in the corral and everything goes kind of crazy and calves are running this way, cows are running that, maybe something breaks and somebody has to go to the hospital. And then if you really watch a good quality crew, there's usually one or two people that are kind of know the cattle. And I hate to say this, but it's usually a woman who knows the cattle, is really quiet, and stuff starts getting done. And if people are attentive, all those people that are going to tell you how to run things and what to do and how to do it, they'll kind of jump out of the corral and they'll kind of watch as the talent gets it done. So I'm going to say the talent that gets it done is right here in the room. Thank you for what you do. Because if there's one thing that I've wanted to bring to state government, it is a respect for what local communities know and how they need to progress. It's not to tell them what to do. It is to assist them in getting the things they need to get done. And so the vision that sort of came from that experience is what I think has been nationally recognized, what you're participating in, and what really has made a difference for Wyoming. And heaven knows that we can make a difference. We are making a difference. And I really want to say thank you for bringing your thoughts to this. I know these aren't on my notes, Janelle, I'm sorry. But I really want to say just a couple of things about that. One of the big problems that happens in politics, and I think it doesn't happen as much here, but there's always that temptation. The further you get up in government, the more you know about what other people ought to or ought not to do. And the more you stop listening to what's really on the ground. Everybody has a recipe how to fix things, like those people that know how to do a branding, but haven't really been engaged at the local level. That's a problem. And what it means is that you all need to not only do what your job is, but you need to really advocate, and I know you have, for your communities. The legislature a few years back, and I'm not, this isn't a political statement, but a few years back, the legislature said, we push too much out to the MRG funds. And the only people that take advantage of it are the politicians that show up, and particularly the state elected politicians that show up to cut the ribbon. Well, every local elected does too. But if you really think about what MRG can do and how we can leverage it against all the programs that are here, and you look at the experience that we've had over the past several years, just think about, IIJA, IRA, all these other acronyms that brought copious amounts of money to state and local governments and to individuals. I will tell you, when all of that sort of inundation of federal funding came, thankfully, Wyoming has a very conservative nature. And we said, the most important thing that we can do is not to spend that money, but it is to make the investments that are important for our communities over time. We all have benefited from the wisdom of the generations that have gone before. The fact that you're engaged in the work that you're doing, the fact that you're here today, demonstrates your commitment to continuing Wyoming as a place where from generation to generation, just like all of our parents probably said to us, leave things just a little bit better for your time here. All of you are doing that. We need to respect in politics the importance of a local perspective, the value of local people making the decisions that are most important to them. You know, and I'll leave you with this, and it's really exciting that you're here. I am so thrilled by all the stories I've heard from counties, from tribes, from others about, I didn't know this. The other thing I'm really excited about is that 24-to-1 return on investment. Kevin always likes to talk about 24-to-1. He likes to talk about 200-to-1 in the monitoring and capability of making sure that people understand that we do the grants right. It's not the sort of thing where we have to go chase them down a long time afterwards. So Wyoming really does it well. And Wyoming is a leader. I mean, Drew was just telling me that other states are now calling Kevin and her and saying things like, what is it we can do to make this work better? Thank you for being in the vanguard. Thank you for being the people who make local communities livable. There's no place like Wyoming. And I want to leave you with two thoughts. One is, the gentleman I worked for, I grew up on a ranch and then eventually did a couple of other things. The gentleman I worked for built a Fortune 500 company out of a well drilled north of Recluse. He and Stan Hathaway were flying along, and Raymond Plank said, you know, I think I want to drill a well right there. That was the beginning of Apache Corporation. And when I worked for it, it was a Fortune 500 company. That's the kind of little idea that could blow up into a big thing. That's what Wyoming is about. And Raymond said something like, the capacity of the individual is infinite. Limitations are largely of habit, convention, satisfaction and acceptance of the way things are, fear, or a lack of self-confidence. I hope nobody in this room suffers from a lack of self-confidence. We have a great state. You live in fabulous communities. Hopefully with the tools you get here, we can all ride for the brand and make this just a little bit better for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Actually get the governor for a little while longer. So we're going to sit and do kind of a fireside chat. And I've asked Director Hibbard and Administrator Emiger to join us. Yep, you're just right, Governor. Well, that was great. I'm going to get some quotes from you and use those in my speech next time. Thank you, Governor. So Governor, just a few questions for you to get the conversation started, and I know Director Hibbard has a lot of thoughts as well. So what brought about your decision to finally launch the Grants Management Initiative?
Well, I think the idea, you know, I'd say it had been percolating for a while. We were trying to get the State Office of State Lands and Investments to start working with partners, and thankfully the federal partners would usually show up. But we wanted to sort of see if we could get a group working. Then along came COVID, honest to God. And what are you going to do with CARES Act? What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with that? And I know, Drew, you stepped into the middle of that. I was going to just make a comment, though. I'm really glad that you had virtual coffee with Randall, because Randall's a Mormon, They don't like coffee, so. Anyway, long story short, it really seemed to emerge from that. It was this hope that we could do a better job making sure that we allocated. We had business council and others working on it, and I think the grants management office came part of that idea. But you know, quite frankly, you and Director Hibbard really kind of took the bone and ran with it.
Well, let's shut it off.
Well, leading into that and taking it further, how does GMO fit into your essentials tour and your vision for that?
Well, thanks. You know, I'm sorry. Every time I hear GMO, I worry a little bit. So it is a grants management office. It's not genetically modified anything. It's kind of like AI. I always have to struggle with that too, because you know I'm a ranger. But in any event, Drew, my vision here has been, how do we equip? I mean, that's where we ran with. That's what I felt most important about Wyoming. We need communities, we need citizens to have access to the things that they can do to make the world better. We also need communities to be able to aspire to appropriate growth. And we're going to do a much better job listening to those communities from the ground up. And so my vision for the Grants Management Office is doing that. This kind of thing, providing the technical expertise, providing the access to the other agencies in the state and in the federal government, plus all the NGOs that you mentioned. There is a commitment here to make Wyoming better. And to my thinking, I think this is really a hope for what I see going forward. I will also say something else that has been remarkable. A remarkable opportunity as a governor with the kinds of fires that we've had over the last few years. Blizzards and fires. It'd be nice to have a blizzard again, but you know, Flat Rock here not long ago, House Draw. You know, these were major consequential events, and the Grants Management Office and the state was able to organize a coherent response that allowed citizens access to get resources for rebuilding, allowed us to have a real conversation about what the right things to do were to protect our landscape from being continually on fire and so on. So this office and the capacities that are reflected by the folks up here really not only is great as a resource for communities themselves, but also as a response mechanism to those kinds of things that unfortunately Wyoming sees from time to time.
Thank you, Governor. And I'll throw this one out. I know Director Hibbard will also have some thoughts on this. What has been the most prominent result or the biggest benefit you have experienced with GMO for the state? And I know the director also has some thoughts on being the efficiency office, so I'm sure you'll touch on that as well.
Well, I think that the real benefit has been allowing communities to lever up. I mean, from a state government standpoint, it's great to be efficient. I know my friend here will talk about that. You've done a phenomenal job, but when you're a little community, you know, I mean, you all, and unfortunately, most of Wyoming is a fairly small community. When you're faced with what it takes to replace a massive water line, a sewer line that's failed or something like that, and you've been working your tail off to try to do it efficiently. I think of Upton and Christmas Eve, where Mark's down and trying to repair a water main leak on Christmas Eve in the evening. That's the kind of commitment people in Wyoming have. To be able to bring those additional resources in and to think imaginatively about what we can do to make the fixes that we need to really make our community stronger for the future. What that's done for communities around the state is just remarkable.
Drew, observation that we have made, and we always are having conversations, and I'm trying to establish takeaways. And the takeaway, number one, is look around the room, because everybody in the room is now part of Wyoming's Grant Management Office. The second takeaway is that we've had folks here for 4 years, and we've had folks that joined us for the first time this year. The most promising thing that I saw was a 4-year participant talking to a first-year participant and saying, I know how I can show you to do that. So that's the reward of this. It really is, we're looking in the room today and we're seeing the Grants Management Office.
Thank you. So this is probably also for both of you. You can decide who'd like to field it first. Why is grant readiness especially important for Wyoming right now? And where do you see the biggest opportunities for Wyoming organizations over the next few years?
The most significant thing that we're experiencing right now is we know that there's going to be future changes in the administration and Congress. They're going to have different ways of allocating money. And what we've established now is the ability to get involved and get right to it whenever those changes are made. Communicate those, get them involved, get them documented, and get process developed so we can answer the new requirements of the new administration, just like we have here recently with the big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to think about is that, you know, these resources are sort of episodic. Being able to lever them as thoughtfully as you can is incredibly important. Wyoming politics isn't a lot different from national politics too. You know, we've had, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about this, but we've had a lot of conversation about taxes generally. Particularly property taxes. And the challenge there is that a lot of this conversation is sort of delivered by those people who show up on the outside of the branding corral knowing how to run everything, but not ever having been around a cow or a calf for that matter. And here's one of the, and I'm not trying to be unkind about this, that the property taxes in Wyoming are really important for local communities. And it is, you know, you got to do your schools, your road, your cemetery, all of these things are kind of based on local property taxes. From time to time, there's a catastrophic break on something. And, you know, I talked about Opal, I can talk about Glen Rock with their sewer line collapsing, Rawlins. I mean, but many of you probably have those stories. Gillette has a few. And that takes a lot of money to be able to fix. Well, so going to your voters and saying, oh, by the way, we have to fix, you know, 16th Street water line and replace the roads and curb and gutter. It's only going to be about $34 million. And your voters, I bet you kind of know how they react to that. What MRG has been and what GMO can do is to mitigate some of that. There's still a responsibility, there's still a need to maintain and upkeep stuff and make sure that it's not fully depreciated and failing. But the problem is that I think people don't understand that we're already working very hard to be extremely efficient, both in state government and locally. And having the capacity to meet those extraordinary challenges when they come, or to think about upgrading over time, those are things that we need to hold dear. And I don't think that when I talk about people rising to a level in government, a lot of times they rise there for reasons like, I can cut your taxes, I can put chickens in every pot, or whatever those things are. We need people to be in those positions who understand what it's like to be in the corral, who understand what it means to be able to vaccinate a calf, that they need to know what's happening. And that's really key.
Sorry.
No, I loved it. You actually took one of the questions I had for you was to talk about property tax relief. So thank you, Governor. I'm gonna switch this around just a little bit, and this is probably more directed at Director Hibbard, but how did you envision GMO and SBD, the state budget department, and the seamless process that you needed to work on in incorporating 2 national consultants into this program? And I know that at least Clifton Larson Allen came to us early on, back I think when CARES and ARPA were around, and then just more. But tell us a little bit about what your vision was for incorporating them.
So you probably can't imagine this, but it was through the humble understanding of my limitations and our limitations, honestly. Now, we have a directive that we want to get the Grants Management Office skill set within the boundaries of Wyoming. Look around you, we are achieved that. We're getting there, and we're going to continue to strive to do that. But in the humble approach to this, I'm thinking we're going to need to find a way to make sure that we have the resources necessary to stand this up to where we don't get lagged down, dragged down, and miss something. So in that humble approach, what we said was, what do we need? We said we need research. We need to be able to look and make sure that we have every opportunity, the federal grant, state grant, and roll it together. We have to have a research firm. So we RFP'd, and Haggerty was given the award for the research aspect of that. That's the 20% of the whole process. Remember, this is 80-20. Getting the grant is 20%. Then the 80% of this, which you all know well now today, is managing that grant. If you stepped away from your training and didn't come away with this 80-20 understanding, then I've missed. And I apologize for that, but I don't think we missed it all. That 80%. So what we did is we said we need to have some support in the accounting function, be able to read all the federal rules and regulations. So we RFP'd and we got Clifton Larson Allen. And in testimony to the Joint Appropriations Committee, I was clear with this. We have to have professional service fees to get this achieved. And really what it comes down to is the governor's approach to this. And I stole one of his colloquialisms, is that the state budget department, grant management office, because we have these 2 supporting contracted firms, we punch above our weight. And that's what's been recognized on a national level. They're saying, how did you do this? How did you accomplish this? But the real thing is, the driving force behind this is we needed to make sure that we helped our local governments, our nonprofits, our tribes, and made a real strong relationship with our federal process. So the answer to that was a humble approach in the beginning.
And I think one of the things I just want to remind you, especially local governments, we don't want you to miss opportunities because you don't have capacity. We can help you with that. And I think one of the things in our office we need to even do better is helping people on that 80% back end, because that's what we're here to help you with. We don't want you to miss opportunities. I'm going to change directions just a little bit, Governor, and this is for probably both of you. I want to talk about the value that our federal partners bring to the equation, because this really is an integrated approach. And so emphasize a little more, Governor. I know you talked about it a little bit in your remarks, but emphasize a little more what your vision is for Wyoming, working with our federal partners to maximize that efficiency and that benefit here in our state.
Well, thank you, Drew. You know, as I said, it's been interesting to look at the federal programs as they've come, and realize that so many of them we were missing the opportunities, largely just because we didn't have people that were conversant with them, and probably, you know, kind of a bit of a thought that, you know, maybe these programs were going to lead us down a path. I think about a young man who said he didn't want to work with banks because they had so many forms to fill out. So he'd rather work with payday lenders. You know, there's a challenge in that, and I don't think people understand, you know, how important it is to really work through the documents and other things. So having the ability for this office to be able to help hold the hand, and I really want to recognize Kathy Lenz a lot for this, because Kathy, you know, you're in Sundance. you and your husband have built a great business there. You've always been interested in making that a bigger, stronger, better community. And ladies and gentlemen, just got to tell you, Kathy would come down on a regular basis and in her very sweet way say, Governor, there's stuff we can do. You need to get after it. Nicest way ever. And then you see what that is able to do, and your ability to kind of look beyond that, and also work with a senator and senators who really understood the gap that we were seeing. So I really want to recognize you for kind of driving into that space and making sure we didn't miss it.
From my perspective at the Grants Management Office, it seems like we share similarities with our federal partners. Not at the Grants Management Office, not only do we care about the voices of the communities and want to listen to them and build in what they're trying to grow in their community, but our federal partners want to do the same thing. And at the Grants Management Office, we want to be the vessel or another avenue for the information that the federal government wants to give us to make us better. At the Grants Management Office, we try to wrap up everything into a nice grant application so we can present it to our federal government partners and they can provide a return on investment and know that that investment is going to provide a return or a return and a benefit to a local government or a community or a nonprofit or a small business. And it's really finding those similarities with our federal partners, building on them and being better at the end of the day, and continuing to look ourselves in the mirror and say, what can we do better? How can we listen better? One of those items is the brainstorm banner back there. When Diana and I go home and we start building on what this funding summit has done for all of our communities, and we find ourselves, what can we do next? We're going to reflect on that brainstorm banner, and we're going to reflect on that map back there that says, where can we go next with our regional trainings? And we're going to tap into our federal partners, gather information, and we are going to disperse that in any avenue that we can using any outlet.
So a really good example of federal partnership. We have a contract within the borders of Wyoming so that we can do this for ourselves, and it's with Haggerty, and it's Robert Eatman. He was the FHWA financial lead here in Cheyenne when I was the budget officer at WYDOT. And we worked together and we collaborated for 12 years. And then he went his way, I went our way. And all of a sudden, years and years later, we find ourselves together again because we collaborated well and trusted one another. And that's what we want to establish with all our federal partners.
Let me add, and the other thing that I was thinking about, having been through a few administrations federally, the people on the ground, they don't come because they want to, they don't do the jobs they do because it's their ambition to drive the federal program to the local level. They come because they have a passion for local communities and because they can be helpful. And so I think the other thing was recognizing that you have people who are constrained by the laws that Congress passes, the rules that are sometimes passed by the agencies. But I think the motivation with the people that you have, the federal representatives on the ground, is trying to work within the constraints that are there to find a way to get to yes. And you know, as a rancher, I can know sometimes you get pretty frustrated when you know the government says, well, the law doesn't allow for that. Doug, has that ever happened? but being able to work with those federal representatives and realize that they actually want to be incredibly helpful, I think is something that you all, Christine, you particularly, also have brought to the recipe.
Thank you. All right, last question. It'll be for all of you. And I just want to let everybody know that the governor will be around for a few minutes when we're done here. So please come up and say hello and take a picture and do all those things because we're thrilled that he's here. Question. So two-part question regarding your vision for the Grants Management Office in the future. Looking ahead, how are Wyoming communities different because of the investment made in the Grants Management Office? And do you believe that we are positioned well to survive changes in administrations, both on a national stage and here at home?
Well, I think communities are better than they were. I mean, one of the things that I've worked for a long time is, how do we get capital improvement plans in each community so people can think a little bit ahead. And I think the fact that we're progressing from, sort of reeling from one failure to the other, to starting to think about how we grow our communities. That's something that this Grants Management Office has done, what you all have brought to it as well. I think the next iteration of that is to really look at, and this is what we're talking about in the Essentials Tour, what is it that we want to see Wyoming be? We have these little disparate conversations. We want to make sure education has more trades because we need more electricians and plumbers. And some people just don't need to go to college, others can. We sort of have that off on one side. And we're building that. We have an incredible capacity in our community colleges and also our university and now our high schools to be able to educate young folks and students, and also people whose job may have changed, and so they can stay in the community. What's problematic is that we haven't at the same time figured out how they can live here because we don't have housing that they can afford. So we've done a phenomenal job of educating Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, and Utah's workforce wherever else they might go. And part of it is finding those jobs so they have good paying jobs. We can work on that. And that's what communities are doing better now. But it's also making a place that people can come, because I will say, bar none, there is no better place to raise your kids than in Wyoming. None of us want to see them go, but we really want to have young families come back. And that means we've got to think a lot as communities about how do we make sure that we have housing that they can actually get into. So that's one of those things that I'm hoping that we can start that conversation. And we don't end it with, we don't want those people here, which I've heard, or, it's going to be problematic if we do that, or whatever. There's issues that we can talk about those and we can grow those. It's up to you if you find it valuable. It's up to the voters to make sure that the question, I'm not trying to be political here, but there's so much in the sort of common political rhetoric that is stuff that somebody in Florida or Washington or Missouri or wherever, Texas, has ginned up, and they put a lot of money behind it because that's the issues that they want people to vote on. But people live in towns, and they need to make those choices about what is it that I want here. And I would argue that Wyoming is a pretty precious place. And it's great that we have people moving here. The sign that I saw that just keeps resonating to me is remember why you moved here. And if we go into this election year and we come with a remember why we're as great as we are, it isn't because of governor, it isn't because of legislature, it's because of the people of Wyoming. And the people of Wyoming can make sure that this resource continues on.
Drew, I'm gonna jump in.
It's gonna be hard to top that. I don't know.
Number one, something that you taught me after the last 2 years, always stay nimble. We need to, as we go through changes in administration, we need to remind ourselves to stay nimble. We want to be like a chameleon and change our color scheme as we go through these different environments and figure out what fits best for us. Governor Gordon, you've also taught me something. Number one, be a champion. Don't ever stop being a champion for our state, for our communities, for anyone that needs assistance. Director Hibbard, another thing that I've learned over the past 5 years at being at the state budget department, always have a fallback position. Always have a fallback position. So making sure that we consider all our alternatives and looking to our audience and our stakeholders, our federal partners to say, hey, this is the blind spot. Look in the peripherals. You need to check this out. You're forgetting something that's going on. And then the other thing, Director Hibbard, is seeing the best in people and knowing what their true value is. And that is what you offered whenever Diana came to our state budget department. We could have never stood up this event without her participation, her organization, her creativeness, and just really finding the key pieces, identifying them, and implementing them to the best of their abilities. That's what we're going to be able to do with all of the tools and the resources. And Governor Gordon, thank you for providing us that flexibility to be able to serve the community, the people, the constituents, and have the flexibility to do what we need to get that job done.
It's all been said. Excellent.
Well, that was wonderful. I think that's going to conclude our fireside portion today, but Governor Gordon, Director Hibbard, Administrator Immiger, through all of our efforts, I am proud to report that Wyoming is not only in the game, but we are leading the nation on grant deliverables. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your vision. And I think before you leave the stage, Governor, Director Hibbard has a little something for you. Yes, I'd be nervous.
Governor, this worked out very well, and you're all going to see how it did. Sometimes I get lucky, and other times I get extremely lucky. But what you have in front of you here is the finish line tape. Imagine you're at the Indianapolis 500, and you're going to drive through that tape. That's what the governor asked us to do in a cabinet meeting, is to run through the tape. That's what he wants us to do. So we see that theory here today. So Governor, this is a symbol of how we get there, and we're running through the tape, and this is a legacy of ours. It's been on my office desk. All you cabinet members that have been in my office, you've seen these there. They've been there for 3 years. I'm handing over the governor today.
I finally earned my spurs.
So those are our afterburners, so we're gonna keep heading. And then Governor, we have to talk about the efficiency initiative. You established the state budget department, and inside the state budget department, you put the responsibility to go out and get efficiencies. We did HR consolidation, we did strategic sourcing for WiLink radios. We did a lot of different things. The premier one was the grants management office. But I had an idea. If you've ever been in Cheyenne, you know the governor's residence is right next to the golf course. There's a fence there, okay? So I'm golfing last Friday, and I shank one, and it goes over into the governor's backyard. Okay, so I'm thinking, there's an efficiency in there, okay? So Governor, rather than me shanking the balls and having you to pick them up, I'm just gonna give them to you right here today.
That's great. Please feel free to join the governor. We've got probably 10 minutes down here, so we'd love to say hello. And then Christine will come back and she'll give you some directions for what we're gonna do next.
Get ready, everyone. Get excited.
Oh, okay.